My name is Leah Granger, and I am the co host of Curtain Call, a weekly live interview series on Instagram with powerful women in the arts. Curtain Call is presented by the fabulous Fab Collab. I guess calling it fabulous is a bit redundant. Yeah, we speak with different women every week. We've been doing it for more than a year. There's been more than 50 incredible artists, performers, dancers, singers, arts advocates, artistic directors. And I think today, I'm not sure, I could be wrong about this. Tomorrow will correct me if I am. But I think that today we're having our first visual artist, I think it might be. She's someone that's, if you're involved in the Toronto arts and music scene, you probably know her. She's just very an iconic person in the city. And we're very happy to have her with us here today. She's an image maker. She's sort of a visual artist. She makes video art, performance art. It's very hard to put her in a box. And we're very excited to welcome her here today. I'm going to invite her. She's also a good friend of all of us at Fab Collab, so we're very excited to have her with us today. I'm going to welcome to the program Maria Litwin. Hi, Tamar. As many of you probably know, there she is. Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going swell.
Hi, welcome. Are you at La Palette right now?
Yes, I am. The bottle lady just showed up.
Awesome. Sure.
Thank
you have
you,
some
Mama.
good.
Yes, Mama. I'm busy, Mama. Yes, thank you, Mama. Mama, I am right now talking. Okay.
That was
a community
perfect.
center.
Because, exactly. I feel like that's kind of emblematic of like everything. It's like you're doing your thing, you're in the community.
That's right.
It's part of the package.
She's actually an amazing human with a great communicator, despite the fact that we don't share language. Thank you, Mama. Bye-bye.
Amazing. Well, welcome. I'm so happy that we're going to get to talk today. This is so cool to have you here.
I'm excited.
So maybe, I mean, like, I know some of your story, but some of the people watching might not. Like, maybe could you start by telling me, like, you are this incredible artist that works in so many different mediums and you're so much a part of just the creative scene here and elsewhere. But has this always been something that was like inside of you, this desire to sort of like express yourself in this way?
Yeah, I mean, I think of it as more of a compulsion. Like, I don't feel like I really had a choice. I had always sketched, and it wasn't really when you're a serial immigrant, becoming a visual artist is really not it's not even something you consider. You don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I always carried a sketchbook and sketched and found great pleasure, particularly in sketching, let's say, Rodin's lived in Paris or anything. I always was busy, and he was a tailor, and he would get me under his wing, and so my hands were always busy. And my best friend's mom was a fashion designer, so our little dolls had industrial machines making their little clothing.
Sorry, Maria, I have to just pause you for 1 second.
Sure.
I think the internet connection is not great. Are you on your phone's internet or the restaurant's?
I don't know. Let me check.
It might be, if you're connected to the restaurant's internet, it might be good to turn off, like, yeah, if you could switch to the other. Because you're just cutting in and out, and I want to be able to hear what you're saying. This happens sometimes, folks. This is the world. We'll get there. I think that's
better now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and basically being busy with my hands has always been a thing. I'm always in need of moving my fingers and doing something. But
Yeah.
it wasn't until I came to Canada, and at that point I was really into stained glass, and was making lamps for the restaurant and making clay pots for the restaurant. And I was taking classes at like pre-diploma classes at OCAD. And at one point, I no longer was able to take anymore unless I enrolled
Right.
in the program. So,
You're like,
so I was like, well, I don't really get it. And then it was just love at first sight. It was, I mean, I worked nights at the restaurant, and I would just knock back coffees and get straight into the workshops. And then I found I struggled a lot with the expectations that were bestowed upon me as a woman of a particular background. And I decided that I wanted to pursue a master's in sculpture installation, because I felt like I needed a lot of answers to what was happening with the discussions around art at the time. These discussions are clearly very different right now. And then residencies followed and shows followed. And one of the things that was very important to me, and I do this till this day, I always have on me a book. I always have on me something I can make artwork with, a sewing kit, and, you know, makeup, because you need those things, and your diary. And without those things, I don't move anywhere.
wow, that's like a lot of like text. It's a lot of like books, no?
Yes, yes, my back does not love me very much, no.
But then you're always ready to go. Yeah, because one thing that strikes me about you is like just like the amount of things like in different fields that you're accomplishing. Because like you're running a like iconic restaurant in Toronto that isn't just a restaurant, you know, it's more than that. And then you're also like creating all the time. So yeah, you must have stuff on you all the time, because you must
I
be
do.
doing it like at the bar a lot.
Well, I have a sewing machine stashed in the back. I
Amazing.
constantly carry little pieces of paper so I can start working
Oh my
on
God.
things.
So cool.
because because I remember once I graduated, a lot of my colleagues said, "Oh, I'm not really making work anymore. I don't have access to a foundry. I don't have this."
Right.
And I really thought about that a lot. And I thought, well, no, you can make tiny little objects, keep them in your purse, and you make a multitude of them, and you can have a ginormous installation. There is no excuse are if you have this desire to create, and not and I think it's a desire not to create for just making stuff, or for I don't know, going through your personal problems. I don't think it's that. I think at one point you obviously have motivation when you're creating work, but at one point it goes beyond you. And it's that magical moment when it goes beyond who you are, and you're basically just the channel through which that work was made. And then it has a life of its own. That's truly the magical moment. And I wish that for any artist, and for any human for that matter, to experience the high of creating something and then letting it go.
So putting it out in the world and letting
Yeah.
other people kind of interpret it.
Well, it lives its life, a life of its own. You're
Hmm.
and you can't really negotiate its meaning anymore at that point, because each generation and each artist will and each viewer will have a different way of looking at it.
Hmm.
um, I don't know about you as a writer, but I, as definitely as a visual artist, I literally have conversations with a lot of dead artists all the time, because
Like who?
uh,
Frida?
not really, no. I do think about her, but like I think about Le Douanier, for example, and I think of of course I think of Marcel Duchamp, and I there are many artists that I still actively argue with, or I'm compelled to answer. And it goes the same for philosophers, you know
Nice.
because I think many of us are interested in the same things, and it doesn't matter that we're historically not in the same time frame.
Yeah, you need to talk to them.
Yeah, yeah,
Can you tell me, like so much of your work involves textile in some way or another,
yeah.
like not costume, but like working with fabric, working with thread. Yeah, and is there like what draws you to that medium?
You know what? It was the first thing I learned as a young woman to do was to make clothes. And what I loved about it was first of all, it was an expression. I mean, you have to, let's put this in context. We're talking communist Poland. So
That's
basically, the government wants everyone to look exactly the same. And there's hardly any fabrics anywhere. There's hardly anything available. But if you know how to sew, you can literally take anything and create a nonconformist persona for yourself. And it's an act of rebellion. It's actually an act of resistance to the establishment in a very, I think, a self-expressive, creative way that really spoke to me right away as a young woman. And in fact, I'm actually, one of the books I'm reading right now
mm-hmm.
is exactly on teenagers in both Poland and Germany, kind of rebelling against the establishment through, I don't know, the choice of socks that they wear and their
Really?
fashions. Absolutely, it was a
Wow.
thing. It was a thing. So then when I came to Canada, I actually had a stint as a fashion designer, and I really embraced it. But what I had realized is that I really wasn't interested in fashion as a change of trends, as a change of things. I was really interested in the kind of the three-dimensionality, the architecture of clothing. And so, in many ways, that makes me think of Christian Dior, who had always said, "I'm not a fashion designer; I'm an architect
Mhm.
of clothing." And the more I thought about my relationship with it, the more I was compelled to just make bizarre things that were out of textiles and make, you know, I remember knitting this incredibly huge ball of yarn that was like bigger than me. And then the clothes basically drew me into the world of sculpture. It's just
Yeah.
one medium, and it was such a natural transition. But to this day, you know, whenever I feel kind of unsettled or I don't know what to do, I'm just gonna whip myself a new dress. I'm gonna, you know,
You make
shimmy
that?
in it. Absolutely. Here,
Amazing.
here, I'll give you a view.
Give us a
I'm,
twirl.
you know what? You gotta amuse yourself. There we go. I'll even twirl.
I know. I was trying to think if I'd ever like seen you in jeans. That's beautiful.
Yes, I have one pair of jeans. Yes.
I know. Well, it's really awesome to hear. Like, it's so interesting because yes, like you are a snappy dresser. You know, like your it looks like art a lot of the time. You know, and it's interesting to hear like the root of it isn't just like, oh, I want to like look cool. It's like it comes from like a very political kind of place. At
Well,
least at the beginning, you know.
I mean, it's still happening today. I mean, I think,
Mhm.
you know, that speaking of which, another book I'm passionately reading right now.
Fashion and politics. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Is it a good book?
It's an excellent book. I highly recommend it. It's, for example, you know, Russian designers that changed the perception of masculinity from this kind of macho, tough guy to this sort of androgynous look.
Hmm.
There is, you know, there is, there's so much. There's so much to even discuss, like
Yeah.
the history of the suit, the history of let's say the Black Panther movement and their dress code and what that signified, and how, for example, it is then taken by Beyonce in her performances to signify something else, and how this seemingly, you know, kind of banal gesture of dressing yourself will kind of express something completely different, you know. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend the book. I think if you can go to Type, order it through them. I know you can probably get it on Amazon, but you know,
Type. I love type. I do type all the time.
Yeah,
They'll get you anything.
they'll get you anything. Yeah. Oh, another good book if you're into fashion and politics. Here's the story of the pocket, the hidden story of the pocket.
Are
Because
you carrying all of these around right now?
yeah, yeah, basically. No, I usually carry just one at a time. One at a time because my back is just like, ugh, what are you doing to me?
But it's
Um,
if you're just reading those books right now, I can only imagine like the breadth of knowledge that you have. Just, like if you're gonna make art that is like rooted in fashion or rooted in like the history of fashion, like you probably have a lot to draw on. So the
well,
amount of research
I
you've done.
st- I started reading these books actually because uh, at the onset of the pandemic, I found myself compulsively making clothes. Like
Mhm.
it was compulsive. It became quite outrageous. I mean, I had the fabric ladies giving me silk in exchange for duck confit and creme brulee, and in this kind of very sort of pristine world where people are masked and distancing and sort of not giving into any sensory experiences. I was stuck pretty much here at the restaurant all day. um, I just pulled out the sewing machine, and you've got a cake in the oven. You seriously can do a lot in that time. And I found that I was also experiencing this inability to produce the artwork that I had been producing at the time. And even
Mhm.
though I got a grant, I just couldn't. It didn't seem right. It didn't seem right. But I had this desire in this very kind of pristine world to smell things, to touch things. And if you've ever worn a wool sweater, it has a smell. It has that lanolin kind of expression, and I needed this feeling of luxury on my skin. And so all of a sudden I was cooking in silk and making outrageous things. And but as the 2 years of this compulsive production, I mean, I literally have probably something like over 70 pieces that got made in that time. I
Wow.
started actually questioning what it is that I'm really doing, because they're absolutely ridiculous. Some of the outfits, like they make absolutely no sense. And what I had realized that in this kind of crisis situation of my partner, my husband, and the love of my life, um, and us trying to sort of save La Palette and save Drum and keep the community, because that's what it's always been for us.
Mhm.
That in fact I had to go back to my roots, and those roots of rebellion against monochromatic thinking, or kind of divisionism within the society. um, Making clothes made sense, and only now, after reading this book, am I starting to understand why I actually did what I did. Or at least it's allowing me to, it's not telling me what I did, but it's allowing me to ask the right questions for myself. So
Yeah. And
there.
kind of like understand what drove that sort of like frenzied creation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was yeah, like, ugh.
Have you thought about having a show of like all the stuff you made during the pandemic?
I have applied for a residency in a show. I haven't heard back. We'll see what
Mhm.
happens. But I most definitely have a vision for it. I mean, another thing that I was doing again, and it had to do with textiles and this passion for luxury goods. I have this book that a friend of mine lent me, which is on Hermes scarves. And I don't know if any of you have ever gone and seen how Hermes scarves are produced, but there was like this touring show of the artisans, and they showed here in Toronto as well. And they would show the process of what they were making. And I remember a story that I grew up with that has I think marked me in the most profound way. It is the story of a thing called smutki, and it is something that was invented in around the 19th century. And so another little political background: the Polish countryside would house both noble people and farmers, and the peasantry, however, could be quite well off, but their political alignments and their cultural alignments are very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
As the story goes, they would only see each other at church on a Sunday. And apparently, a couple of the noble women had just come from visiting Italy and France, and they were adorned in lace. And
So lace was like a new thing for Poland then?
they've never seen it. They've never seen anything
Yeah.
like it. The women are not listening to the priest anymore. All they can think about is, how do we get that? How do we get that? How do we make that? So they apparently went home, and they were very seasoned embroiderers. And so what they figured out is that they're going to embroider and then cut out the negative space, and that's how they're going to create lace. It's not lace. It's not how lace is made, as you know, because you've seen it made in Spain.
Yeah.
It is something completely different, but it became very desirable. And in a way, this sort of idea that if you can't have something, let's say the pandemic happened and can no longer have the art career that you had because something else happens, well, you can literally channel that story, and you'll create something else, that you're never left alone because you have your creativity, and no one can take that away from you. Someone can lock you down, someone can tell you not to leave your house, someone can take away all your rights, but they cannot take away your freedom of thought and your ability to be creative.
Yeah, and also it's like maybe you can't have that Hermes scarf, but you
No.
can make something like incredibly beautiful. So yeah, so you've applied for this residency to create these scarves, right?
Yeah, so during the
And you
pandemic,
got it, huh?
I did get it, and I'll be going to
Amazing.
Barcelona, and
That's great to hear.
it was it was fun to think about those things, and as I said, in a time where we're deprived of sensory um, kind of indulgences.
So how are you going to make those scarves? Because I've looked at
Well,
the designs and also I'm interested to see, like, I don't know how they
I
make them.
don't, I so
I
the
wore this I wore this in honor of your scarves, by the way.
oh, they're beautiful. The Hermes scarf. Well, it's basically each color is a silk screen.
Mhm.
And so imagine that an Hermes scarf can have, like, I don't know, like 20, 27, 30 different colors. And imagine each one of those colors is one silk screen, and it's applied by hand. It's not done digitally. It's not,
Right, they're like literally.
they're literally doing the whole press. So I mean, the reason why the touring exhibition happened is because people were kind of losing interest in buying Hermes products, and there was a lot of other politics about buyouts, which I won't get into. But
Mhm.
the house had decided that the only way for people to really understand why you spent $500 on a scarf is because you need to know how it's made,
Right.
and you need to know what goes into it, and then you're not going to think about it the same way.
You see it as a piece of art.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've had some great artists actually design for them. If you ever want, I'll lend you the book. I'll tell my friend that I lent it to you, though.
Well,
Although,
I loved looking at like because I mean I feel like we should share some of like whatever images you'd like allow us to share of your
yeah,
work. Just because I will just describe a little bit is that you made your designs. Did you make them with paper? Like your
yeah,
proposals for these scarf designs were like
yeah.
works of art in themselves.
Here,
Like she sent, yeah,
so here, so this isn't for the scarves, but here's an example of
paper, right?
of paper of the things. I mean,
It's so
so
incredible.
so when I was showing you the little butterfly, let's say I made one butterfly like so,
Yeah.
and then maybe I made something like this and I added to it. I mean, these are all things you can literally do
I mean,
without much effort. But I put a twist to it. Actually, I'm gonna try and see if I can pull it up on my computer, um, and then I'll give you guys a little sneak peek.
is the I remember as a kid my grandparents bringing us like some paper art, and I'm trying to remember if it was like from Poland. Like, is it something that is that art form have roots in Poland?
Yeah, it's not just
Yeah,
in
I think it
Poland.
is. My mom still has it.
Yeah, no, it's actually it's something I grew up doing. You do it
Okay.
for like Easter postcards. It's a way of decorating your house. Um,
It's so beautiful. And the like you did one with like little bugs or
yeah,
something.
I'm gonna put
Full
that
of
one
red.
on.
So
All
cool.
right, enter full screen. Here we go. So here is so here's like the first one. Am I gonna do this right? Whoops.
Oh
So this
yeah.
is this is a traditional Hermes scarf
Yeah.
from
Wow. I mean, that's
1972.
incredible.
And then this would be the paper cutouts.
So yeah, it's so beautiful. And so wait,
And
but
then
mhm.
and then whoops. And then whoops.
I
Okay.
know. Mine is that too.
So here's, for example, ships in a bottle, but I decided to have some fun with a vodka bottle.
Nice.
As you know, I
That's
think
awesome.
having a sense of humor. So here's another one, which is with, there are two scarves that kind of inspired me here. There, one is with ladybugs,
Yeah.
and one is with bugs, creepy
Wow.
crawly. And then I have this kind of a very interesting relationship with ladybugs. That I love them and they creep me out at the same time. And so this is my kind of reinterpretation of that scarf.
That's
And
so
then,
beautiful.
butterflies are a very common theme for Hermes. Of course, the kind of the horse and all that is more. And this would be kind of my variation
Wow. So beautiful.
on that. So, like I said, I mean, these are things that I can whip up when I have, 20 minutes there, 5 minutes there, 3 minutes here. Um, it's certainly my practice over COVID had to completely change. Like, I don't get to spend 2 months in Japan working on one project, you know what I mean? But um,
Yeah.
I think that sometimes when you have to go back to that lack of resources, and just kind of say, well, tough. I don't have that. I don't have any of it. What do I do now? What
Yeah.
do I do
I
now?
mean, I know a lot of people that didn't do anything. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's great that you were able to, that you were still driven, that you were like finding ways to do that and that you had the desire to do it during that time. I'm sure you had moments where you weren't, but like, it's great.
Um,
Or maybe
there,
you didn't.
you know what? There were just those moments where you just start questioning, what the hell is this important to anyone?
Yeah.
Am I just doing this to kind of feel good about myself? Like those are. Is it just feeding my ego, or is it actually something that we can kind of all we can get inspiration from, or it will speak to us on a different level. And I really don't know exactly
I
the
mean, that's like,
answers.
I think, a question that every artist must, especially when we're, it's hard to reach people as like a dancer, like often as like a visual art, or like, when it's your work is very like when there's like a lot of conceptual aspects to it, you know what I mean? You don't necessarily find a huge audience, and then it's always like, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
But I
um
mean, I think a big part of it is like, I think it's okay if like part of it is like you have to do it.
yeah.
But I also think it's like people, it matters to people. One of the things I really enjoy about your work is that like it's conceptually really interesting, but I find like often that conceptual or like performance art, it's like the idea is interesting, but then like the work itself isn't that interesting to me. Whereas with your work, I'm like, and it's also like really beautiful. Like you also have like a beautiful aesthetic, like those scarves, like the
so
idea behind it is really cool, but also like they're beautiful.
I got a lot of criticism for beauty in artwork when I was in my undergrad, because
I bet, yeah.
apparently that's the kind of seduction you don't want in the work. But I strongly disagree. My background is in craft. My background
You
is
have
in
to
taking
craft.
pride in the craft of art making. Does that mean that just because something is visually seductive, does that mean that it doesn't have depth and can't be profound? That's like saying that a beautiful person can't be an intellectual at the same time. I don't see how that's
Mhm.
possible. I think it's, for me, there has to be an into an artwork. And I say this to a lot of young artists. Have you tried living with your artwork? You
That's
know,
great.
don't just fucking make it and put it out there. No, live with it. Keep it in your bedroom. Look at it. And what do you want from that work now?
Yeah,
Because when a person acquires your work, be it for an institution or for their home, that is all of a sudden someone that lives there. That it becomes an inhabitant of that house. And so
totally.
it can't be, it has to have substance, and it has to be able to, I think, visually and conceptually keep giving over time. So it cannot just, you know, be like, oh, those, I can just do it.
Shirley,
But
Shirley is online at watching, and
oh, I
she
love
says
her.
she's like also humor. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
that's also, because that's also present in your work. And I love that. Like whether in dance or like, I mean, I'm obsessed with like comedy and just to me that is like, I know I'm not a comedian, but I like have secret aspirations. And to me, it's like one of the most impressive things, or the things that I like covet in like a friend or like a person or like a work of art is like the ability to be funny and like to not take yourself incredibly seriously, which is ridiculous for flamenco, but
Well, I think that there there are moments that you can't do that. You know, what I mean? I actually I think of movie stars from the 1930s and or I should say the characters for women that were written in the 1930s, and the women were tough and sexy and funny and smart and sassy and
true.
it's true, right? But right now, apparently, we can't be funny and all these other things. I question that. I question that very profoundly. I think one of the books that I just read that has this is by a fantastic Croatian writer. It's called Baba Yaga Laid an Egg, and this is again another refreshing kind of piece of literature that allows for both profound humor, um, talking about death, talking about illness, um, talking about sensuality, sexuality, fairy tales, and also be light at the same time. And
Mhm.
and for me, it gives more of a three dimensionality to to be it a piece of writing
Is it
or
a novel?
yeah, it's it's part novel, and then it's also got sort of the history of Baba Yaga in Eastern Europe element to it. So
Cool. That sounds awesome. I wrote it down. Baba Yaga laid an egg.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you
Uh,
had a show in Belgrade before the pandemic, is that right?
yes,
That's
I
so
was
cool.
actually very fortunate. I was working on this kind of. Uh, I had at one point had a huge beef with, and please, you can criticize me all you want, with the Catholic Church as an institution. And I kept on thinking about sort of a lot of the rituals that I grew up with that are Slavic rituals that predate Christianity, that have been adopted by the church, but that actually
Right.
have nothing to do with it. And I wanted to, and a lot of those rituals were bastardized to the point where they would reinforce anti-Semitic behavior, and we can open up that discussion about the church on some other platform, perhaps not right now. I wanted to go back to the Slavic roots of these rituals and
Mhm.
see how that kind of reflects. And one of the things, for example, we do in the winter is, you know, we dress up as animals and we walk around and do all sorts of things. And so I created a series of masks.
Yeah.
Here is,
Oh, you have it there. So cool.
Here's one. Oh, just
What
so you know
inspired that
what,
one?
just so you know what I make it from. Whatever stuff is hanging around at the restaurant that's gonna go and get recycled. So, and then the birch, Shamez and I actually handpicked we handpicked the birch.
Wow. So this is
Any,
a
and I
no
mean,
waste project.
and again, this is, you can always find some cardboard and a stapler. Like, I think you're okay. So I created all the series of masks and then invited dancers and movers and actors and friends and anyone to sort of create um, images based on that. And then for the actual show, and I mean, and Joliane, Afton, and Anastasia, and I mean, there were so many people kind of dedicated to it because, once again, the masks have smells. They smell like the materials that they're made of. The
Hmm.
clothing that was made to go with it, also, they're natural fibers that have a feeling against your body, and so it allowed for the dancers to create movements within these. And you, as a dancer, know costume can do wonders for your movement if you feel
Totally.
it. Um, and Joliane joined me in Belgrade to stage a show and did a live performance of all of that. And um, I was in complete awe of her performance that day.
I watched it. It was really beautiful and really
Yeah,
strong.
she's
Fuerte.
anyone who she's a wonderful dancer. Joliane Langlois, I'm gonna toot her horn because she's amazing. Having said that, I was supposed to be performing with her, but
Gonna
had
ask you. I was like, I was imagining that you would be dancing as well.
well, the reason I wasn't dancing is because I had sustained second and third degree burns on 3.5% of my body.
Oh my
And
God.
the day the performance was happening, I was actually at the surgeon's office to see if I need a skin graft. So
Oh my God.
they kind of, I mean, Serbian doctors, they knew I was going to go to my own opening, but they told me, it's going to set you back for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it did, in
Wow.
fact. So my beautiful husband commuted right before COVID to Belgrade to take care of me because I couldn't walk.
Oh my God. That's
So
horrible. But I'm glad you got to go.
yeah, I mean, I got to go, and luckily I got to get back to Canada before, I flew back on the 18th of March, so right before everything shut down. So,
That's crazy because I flew back on the 11th and it
oh
already
my,
seemed insane to be
yeah,
doing. Like I was like, because I was in Ukraine. Wait, and
oh
they shut
my
their
God,
everything a day later.
oh my
It was like,
God.
whoa, okay, barely made it out of there. Yeah, it's been crazy. But for you as an artist, are things like, is there any return to like you're going on this, you're
Yeah,
going to be doing residency. Is there some like return to normalcy at all? Like, are you able to look forward and be like, okay, I'm pursuing these different
yeah, I
projects?
mean, I feel so I felt so incredibly starved for my art practice that it just feels like I'm gonna get to breathe air.
Amazing. So where can people like find you and find
Uh,
your work?
oh, they can find my work online.
Can they just
They can
Google you?
they can Google me. I mean, if anybody wants to message me and come to my studio, it's a mess, but you can see some of the work there. Yeah,
I
I
love
mean,
it. I love that people are usually like, my Instagram's this, my blah blah blah's this. You're like, come to my studio. I
well,
love it. I love
you
it.
know what it is? It's like, I understand, like, you seeing things online is one thing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
sculpture, one of the most important things about sculpture, and whether it's a low relief or it's an actual big three-dimensional piece, is its scale, its size,
Mm,
its relationship to your body. It is a body in relationship to your body. Is it huge? Is it small? How does it make you feel? I mean, if you are standing beside a really large object that is looming over you, you are going to feel like this. But if
Yeah.
something is tiny and small, then you feel perhaps protective of it. Perhaps you kind of want to be closer to it. There is a different relationship to it.
Totally. And what about dance? Are you like doing any dance at all, even for fun? Because
I have been.
I know Maria as a dancer, and we met in Spain. And when we didn't meet in Spain, but we were in Seville, and you were staying at my house. And I remember there were these like marble stairs in my house, and you were like, Leah, I think I'm gonna like wash your steps with my hair. I'm gonna like use my hair to like wash your steps and like film it. And I was like, what? Because I feel like I didn't really like know you as this artist that you are. Like that was when I introduced you as this like performance artist. And I was like, do it. Definitely you should do that.
Yeah, I was trying to erase any trace of myself. I was testing if I can erase traces of myself because I would see my hair on those
White steps.
yeah, and then I was like, okay, how do, and what, anyway, like I said, I don't know how to answer things unless I make work with it, so that's
Totally.
how it goes.
But also,
Dancing,
it's such a beautiful idea. Like
yeah,
it's a beautiful place, and like with your
it
with
was
your hair, I don't
stunning.
know. It was like I was like, that's awesome.
Casa Azul was it called? Was it Casa Azul?
That's yes.
Yeah. It was beautiful. Well, I did take a couple of Zoom flamenco classes with Ramon and Alicia.
Amazing.
I
Wonderful.
know, but honestly, by the time like the sound comes, it's not quite the
I
same.
know. I never was able
Um,
to do that really.
I dance a lot in my kitchen, and I dance a lot with Shemez if I can get a chance with him. I think my flamenco dancing days are probably way over, seeing as I've fractured way too many bones in my feet.
It's pretty
Um,
hard on the body, yeah.
yeah, it's pretty hard on the body, but I will always be grateful for every choreography I learned, for every move, for every advice on stage presence. I think whether you become a professional dancer or you just dance as an amateur, and I mean that as the lover
Totally.
of. And I've always liked that idea of an amateur as being the lover of that particular field.
That's right.
I
Amateur.
yeah,
Beautiful.
and I also think there is a benefit to. I don't know if you see people working out these days. There's like this it's very adrenaline driven, very kind of
Yeah.
forceful way of moving. And I think if you want to be panting out of exertion, why not choose something that is also joy bringing and like the kind of really exciting adrenaline rush, not the fear-based exercise. So I think dancing is the most natural way to get your heart rate going, to get elated, I don't know if there's anyone who is in front of a live musician or sees dancers, doesn't automatically get goosebumps, doesn't automatically feel, you see dancers on stage, your heart starts beating like theirs does. You start breathing to the music because the beat, the drumming of the feet or the drummer or any kind of rhythm starts affecting your actual heart rate. It's
Completely, yeah.
and every single time I see live music and see you guys perform or any dance performance for that matter, I mean, I have tears in my eyes.
Well, I was looking at all of your artwork today. I was like, oh, because I'm finishing this project right now, but I was like, my next project, I was like, you should be like designing, like it could be like women in iconography, like in art from like from like Polish culture, from like da 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 da, and like lights and like projections and all this stuff. I was like, Maria needs to be, because like your work is, even the visual stuff, it inspires like movement and performance. I don't know. I was like,
I
I see
think
your connection of your visual art like to the world of dance.
yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
You're like,
loving
agreed.
that. Agree.
Well,
And I and
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say I also I just wanted to say that I want to thank every single artist and every single performer that I've ever encountered, because they all have impacted my life profoundly. So for all of you that know who you are, and those who don't know who I am, I just want to say thank you. You've touched my life.
Well, you've touched a lot of people's lives too. And on that note, in addition to being an artist, you also are running La Palette, which is an institution in Toronto. So that's another place that people can find you. And I
Yep,
encourage people to
yep.
go there and check out music there, check out music at Drum as well, of
And
course.
I can't take credit for a lot of that. That would be Shamez Amlani, who is always
Mhm.
a huge supporter of live music. He is a
Yeah,
huge fan of music, and heads up, he was in a band when I met him.
I was going to say,
Um,
you must be a musician as well.
he is, but he doesn't really tell people that. Oh, the secret is out, Shamez. Anyway, I mean, it is for Shamez, music is a very profound part of community building. It had always been on the forefront of pedestrian Sundays that he was, or that he still is involved in,
I can't
and
begin.
that he and a bunch of other people started. Shemez makes sure that we have bands here at La Palette, even though it's not conducive. They often play right up top on the kitchen. We have a stage that comes up here.
I know.
Sometimes the band plays on the bar, sometimes on the kitchen pass, and of course, from all the years of pedestrian Sundays and La Palette, the whole community was ready to be a part of Drum and be that community there.
Yeah,
And I don't. I mean, the, Shemez and I had not that much time to be divided between Drum and La Palette over the pandemic. So it was Misha and Thomas and the whole crew,
yeah.
particularly Misha, and the musicians who kept everything going. Um, and it's a miracle that it survived. But you know what? Community is a miracle. So
Yeah, you got yeah. There's like you guys have been such strong community builders in Toronto, and both of those places are like these awesome restaurants, but they're also just like centers of community in the city. So
yeah,
3 years for that. It's really been amazing to see. Like, yeah, especially like just with Drum is like it's just there's as a music venue, there's nothing like it at
no,
all.
no, and Shemes had a very very clear vision of uh, how he wanted Drum to exist in its realm.
Mhm.
Of course, it's grown to be something beyond what he
Yeah.
created, because as we talked with creation, it has to become something that is of you but is not you.
Hmm.
um and I remember Shamez and I used to always on our date nights want to go and see music. We'd go to Rex, we'd go, we have a bunch of different places. And one thing
Canada,
that always you definitely
very
uh
close.
but one of the things that really bothered me is that you couldn't get a decent glass of wine. And so
Yeah.
we would never stay long enough, because I'd be like, oh my God, I just can't do this. I'm not 20. I deserve a nice glass of wine. And so one of the things that we had realized is that you can't just have great music. Why not have great food and have great wine and have all of it? Who says
Yeah.
that you're only supposed to do one thing, you know?
And to welcome just like music, like such a diversity of music and dance and that kind of thing is super unusual. There hadn't been a home for that really, and now there
No,
is.
but that's what Toronto is.
Hmm.
It's I mean, the bands that end up jamming later, the band members of different bands that end up
Yeah,
jamming, and the new creations that can happen from that is something incredibly special.
yeah. The
And
projects that have been born out of that are many.
absolutely, and
Mhm.
I don't think, I mean, this is just uh, I feel awe in in this experimentation and this love of music, and the fact that drum could facilitate some of that. So yeah, once
And
again,
before that, and also like, and continuing to do so. And at La Palette has always been a home for a lot of like out of pedestrians. Because I remember just coming there like after pedestrian Sundays, you know, after doing stuff there, and then
yeah.
being welcomed into the restaurant afterwards with like all the different people that had performed there. It was amazing.
Well, it's kind of funny because I think Shemez had never intended, La Palette. It was an experiment when we first opened, and it had always meant community building for him. It never meant, you know, we're a restaurant, we serve food. No, I mean, yes, we serve food. Yes, we
Good
have.
food. It's great.
It's great, but that's not the core of it. The core of it is the community. And once again, we wouldn't have survived the pandemic if it wasn't for the community. And I know that there was no way in hell we were going to stay at home and sit on our couch and watch Netflix. We knew we had to be here. And
Yeah.
even if in that day one person walked through that door, you know, to buy a piece of cheese or a bottle of wine, that for that person, that is meaningful at that point. And it will also be meaningful to us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it, because it's a reciprocal kind of experience, because people were literally coming out once a week because they were at home all week long. And for some of our customers, our community, that was their only interaction with another person.
Mm-hmm.
The once a week come and grab a couple of things of supplies.
Yeah.
And I was really happy we could be there for them.
Totally. I mean, yeah, you guys are in a million different ways. So everybody go down there, go see Maria, say hello, La Palette, Drum, and we'll be watching for your work. Please
Yes,
share with us, like, as things
I
are
will.
happening. Because also we're happy to share whatever you want with all the people that we're involved with now, which is like a big group as well. Like we're all about community building also. And it's been really amazing over the last year and a half to like connect with so many people, and especially women. So please keep us in the loop.
I will. And let's grab a coffee, you and I, because it's been a
Yes,
while.
I know it has been a while. I'm very inspired to do so. Have a wonderful day. And we're so grateful that you were able to join us here today. And I'm just going to say before I sign off that next week we have another incredible guest, which is Rosary Spence, who's an incredible Indigenous musician, singer. She's like an arts advocate. She's like a producer, and she's one of the curators of Indigenous Grooves, which is an amazing event happening next Saturday, June 4th. It's the Saturday, June 4th, starting June 4th at Lee's Palace. It's a night of all Indigenous women electronic music artists. There's a craft and art fair. There's
That's cool.
spoken word host. There's a fashion show. It's like a whole come into the world of this community. So please check that out. It's at Lee's Palace on June 4th, and we'll be talking with one of the curators next week. So yeah, thank you so much, Maria. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing more of your beautiful work very soon.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.